Hey folks, walk with me. It's a bright sunny one out here today, but we're gonna do our best. Signs of past trauma. So I put out a video about acknowledging trauma, and I think it was hard to not sort of like just morph that into, hey, these are some signs that at least I'm aware of that popped up in my life that should have said to me, hey, you have some unacknowledged things that you need to acknowledge and then deal with. And so in the hopes that sharing my experience, this is just my anecdotal personal experience, but in the hopes that that connects to anyone, that then sort of puts a light bulb, opens the door, whatever. That's my goal for this. I'm not a mental health professional. I have no coursework, no degree. This is just my personal experience. So my signs, and the signs are basically, the way I think of them at the moment is, these are like pathways, right? Like neural pathways that I developed because of past trauma, especially adverse childhood experiences, right? Things that happen when you are young and unable to process them, either because you're not yet language oriented, right? You don't have any language to process things, or just because you're 5 years old and overwhelming things happen, and if your caretakers don't help you make sense of it, then you may make sense of it in a very perverse way. But things that I noticed that should have been setting off or alarm bells or like throwing sirens up, a constant, incessant level of vigilance, over-vigilance, I guess I should say, constantly looking for the next threat, right? And being convinced that the world is inherently a threatening and dangerous place, right? That there is no safe place. Not to use a weird term. I feel like that's been kind of co-opted in an odd way these days. But what I mean is just never feeling safe in your own home, in your own room, certainly like out and about in the world. You know, you can put on a happy front for a period of time. You can sort of present yourself as being happy-go-lucky or whatever. But deep down inside, that sense of constantly being hyper vigilant about where is the threat coming from. And I know that there's threats coming because the world is inherently a threatening and dangerous place. So there's that. Also, anything around like close, meaningful friendships or relationships, having difficulty in obtaining those, holding on to those, having something that just feels like a normal sort of friendship, best friend, long-term relationship, long-term friendship, any inability to really do that, and maybe with a healthy dose, healthy is a weird term to use, but a strong dose of self-sabotage in there, right? Those were signs that should have said something to me. Discomfort around intimacy, right? Or touch, or affection. What do I want to say here? Like being uncomfortable with it in a way that's not like somebody is, there's a difference between somebody sort of forcing themselves on you and being abusive in a way and that being uncomfortable. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what should otherwise be sort of a very shared, enjoyable experience and it not feeling that way. Or the overemphasis of that, right? Like the constant need or seeking of an overindulgence, if you will, in those sorts of pleasures. Certainly anything that feels like addictive behavior, right? Like overeating or under eating, exercise, certainly like drugs and alcohol, the need to like fill yourself up or consume yourself in a way with those things, or just shut your mind off with those things, dull the pain, right? There's that old adage of like, don't ask a drug addict why they use drugs, ask them why do they have so much pain, right? And that's the question that you need to ask yourself, I think, if you want to take some steps to sort of be like, I'm not a bad person because I abuse drugs. I have pain that I don't know how to deal with, and this is a way that I've found to deal with it, and it's not socially acceptable, and so I feel like just a bad person, right? But that's not the case, and needing to sort of approach it from a different angle, an angle of what's the pain that I'm trying to deal with here, and starting there at least. Doesn't mean that you're gonna snap your fingers and not need to or want to use whatever you're using, but it puts you on a pathway to something that might be more in tune with well-being, let's say. But yeah, abusive behavior, like towards substances or even things that seem healthy, diet and exercise, right? I feel like a lot of people get addicted to that sort of thing. Optimization even, or workaholics. But they can be silly things. Like I heard, what's the guy's name? Gabor Mate? Is that his name? I could be totally butchering that. He said that he was addicted to buying compact discs. And then at points he would spend $2,000 or $3,000 in a day on CDs. And he would like lie to his wife about it because, what wife wants her husband spending $3,000 a day on compact discs? And yeah, so it can take very non-traditional forms, I guess we could say. But I would really have your antenna up for that one. Anything around like a constant fear of abandonment, that one should have been shouting loud and clear to me, but for a long time it didn't. But that constant fear that a significant other or a friendship or a job, a boss, right? Any of these things that they're sort of like, the end is implied once it begins. And that you're constantly then super agitated, super fearful, angry around it, sad around it, whatever it is. Maybe all of the above. But those were some signs that, looking back, I still have, as I'm trying to work through all of it. But again, I wanted to share it just in the context of if it's relatable, right? If this connects you, if you heard a word and go, oh, maybe this is a bit more meaningful than I've been giving it credit for. Maybe I should pay more attention to that thing. That was my hope with this. Purely anecdotal, purely my stuff, not a mental health professional. But maybe just a sentence or a word in a video that makes a person go, oh, I should explore that. All right, folks, we're getting a little long in the tooth here in this video, getting close to 10 minutes, but I try to keep these weekend ones well under, but so it goes, as I am long-winded. But in any case, I hope you're enjoying your weekend, and I will see you in the next video.